Hello students, welcome to this video tutorial. In this video, we will be discussing the play The Boy Comes Home by A. Milne. Alan Alexander Milne, born on January 18, 1882, London, England. English humorist, the originator of the immensely popular stories of Christopher Robin and his toy bear Winnie the Pooh. He is an accomplished novelist, playwright, and a poet. He worked as a journalist for several years and as an assistant editor of Punch. His plays are said to be characterized by laughter of things, surface gaieties, and the comedy of existence, a mark of his humorous intellect. His works are notable in that they show no apparent effect of pathos or a background of disaster in them. A. Milne died on January 31, 1956, Hartsfield, Sussex. The Boy Comes Home. It is a one-act light comedy play dealing with the return of a young boy that went to the war 4 years ago. Milne throws light upon the generation gap and the social crisis that define the society. The social crisis that we are talking about in this play is the post-war society in England. So what is the crisis that the society was facing? Let us throw light on that. One of the key challenges facing the UK in 1945 was the economic position of the country. The national debt had increased. 1 in 3 houses had been destroyed by bombing, while factories and shops had been destroyed in large numbers. Britain suffered military and civilian deaths during the war. Many others were physically and mentally scared by the war and unable to resume their normal life. Merchant ships and many of the navy had been sunk, so food supplies were still a problem. Rationing remained in place for another 10 years. Income tax remained high to help the government pay for the reconstruction. The period saw the end of British Empire. Its standing in the world had declined as it became impossible to contend with the economic might of the USA. Wartime rationing had to be continued due to shortages of food and raw materials. This period in UK history is often called the Age of Austerity. So here we are going to discuss about a play which is the effect of the post-war in England. First of all, let us discuss the characters of this play. The first character that we will be discussing is Philip. So Philip is the hero of the comedy, The Boy Comes Home. He is a youth of 23 years, had just returned from a war after 4 years. He is a carefree and joyful sort of person. He seems to be deeply attached to his Aunt Emily, while he is not so much comfortable in the company of his guardian, Uncle James. This is because Uncle James is a strict man that wants to follow a disciplined life. The character of Philip is all about proving what a man can do, provided he is confident and knows the right way of using forces. Philip is the hero of youth, an ideal personality that knows how to manage things as well as to control humans. Philip convinced us of his skill when he brings round the rude and arrogant Mrs. Higgins. Everybody seems afraid of her except Philip. He orders her for breakfast, which she won't serve. Philip asks her to come to the room. Mrs. Higgins comes and says, "Breakfast is at 8 o'clock. It always has been as long as I have been in this house, and always will be until I get further orders." Here, Philip says that he is just giving further orders for this. She retaliates, and the matter reaches even to resignation. Philip cuts a check and fires her from her job. All of a sudden, the attitude of Mrs. Higgins changes, and she says, "If it is only a bit of breakfast, I don't say but what I might or what I might not get it, if I am asked decently." Similarly, the mere conflict with Mrs. Higgins and its news reaches Uncle James. Since dreams are best vehicles to rehearse our arts, Uncle James' dialogues with Philip is one such dream in this play. The severity of Uncle James ends up in surrendering before Philip. This proves the superiority of Philip, and the uncle that had decided to get Philip into his business by word of instructions offers him anything of his liking. But the hero of the play shows utmost respect for his uncle and joins his uncle's business. Judging the character of Philip from thematic point and symbolic terms, it appears that the playwright has even grave concerns with regard to society and extremism while delineating the character of Philip. The character of Philip portrays what happened to the same old values and honorary things during war that we do in general, that is, normal, happy life. We make fun of all by revealing the horrible face of war and heroism related to war. The cruelty is unleashed in such a manner which baffles us, as it does to Mr. James or Uncle James, and both James and the society do their best not to look at the monster problem of the jingles of war. The characters of Philip is a living manifestation of how war destroys innocence and teaches brutality. The next character we have is Uncle James. Okay, Uncle James is an old man with an unimpressive personality. He has a weak physique, thin beard, and unimpressive stature. But he has made his image as a disciplinarian and strict person. In his house, he has strictly implemented his orders. When he enters the parlor, he inquires about Philip, and when told by Aunt Emily that he should be tired after spending long years in war, he rejects it as an inadequate excuse and emphasizes the punctuality which Philip should have learned in the army. He is quite annoyed and, looking at the watch furiously, says, "It is 10 o'clock, Emily, 10 o'clock." According to him, it is perhaps an unpardonable act. He says he has delayed going to office particularly for Philip. Thus, practically, the whole day has been spoiled. He is dry, unsympathetic, and devoid of human sentiments and emotions. He dislikes emotional expressions associated to war, country, or human relations. He is a good businessman. He has expanded his jam business. He knows the trade tricks of making money. His nephew Philip also knows that his business is running successfully. Uncle James is worried for paying excessive tax on profits. He lacks practical knowledge of human psychology. He does not bother to win favors of others. He is inflexible. He imposes his views forcefully. His behavior with his nephew is an example of his rigid and inflexible character. However, he is not bad at heart. This fact is acknowledged by his wife Emily as well, who tells Philip that he is a little hard to go with, but he has a love for Philip. He has no intention to misuse or usurp the money kept in his custody for the future of Philip. He only insists to hand over the money to Philip after he attains the age of 25 years, and this is a legal requirement. James reminds Philip that he is his uncle. Philip tells that during war they used force to put down force. Hence, the force of purse string will be faced with revolver. Okay, the person, Uncle James, is trying to pursue Philip by using the power of money, purse string, but he says he has to face with revolver. His nephew also tells him that he has no sanctity for human life after the experience of 4 years' war. At this, Uncle James gets frightened and appeals for mercy. Meanwhile, he awakes. Now he is completely changed. Now he is very sympathetic and accommodative to the views of his nephew. Hence he also changes his ideas and agrees to join his uncle's business. So the whole thing that he meets his nephew and his nephew threatens him with revolver turn out to be his dream early in the morning. Let us now move to the next character, that is Aunt Emily. Aunt Emily is a kind-hearted woman. She is the aunt of Mr. Philip, a kind-hearted, middle-aged woman. She meets Philip warmly and asks him if he had slept well and taken breakfast. She feels herself concerned about the welfare of Philip. She lovingly says, "Naughty boy, you are late for breakfast." Moreover, she has the feeling that in the army they would have been waiting him too early in the morning. She expects that by spending 4 years in the army, Philip must have developed the habit of getting up early, but Philip says that every morning when he woke, he used to say that a day would come when he will be his own master. There is a mark of love and frankness in her conversation with Philip. She remarks that a cozy, comfortable bed would have kept him awake, as during war he had been spending in trenches. Philip explains that during war all the time they were not in trenches, and being an officer he had the privilege of availing short leave after intervals. Aunt Emily complains that he did not spend such leave at home. She herself explains that he must have wanted gaiety, that is enjoyment, during such short leaves, but at the same time points out that his Uncle James felt it, being his guardian. She is loved and respected by Philip. She considered his point of view sympathetically. When she first meets him, he kisses her hand. He confesses during the conversation, "I know you have been a darling to me always," but he also complains about Uncle James that a smooth running had been always difficult between them. Due to her kind nature, Mrs. Higgins and Mary also find it feasible to approach her for the solution of difficult situation. The next character we have is Mrs. Higgins. Okay, now here Mrs. Higgins is working as a cook in the house. She acts according to the instruction of Mr. James and serves breakfast at 8 a.m. daily. When she is ordered for special breakfast at 10 a.m. by Philip, she gets annoyed. In the beginning, she is reluctant to obey and wants to complain before Aunt Emily. She asserts that she is working according to the orders of housemaster, and for a change in routine, there should be a change in orders by the housemaster. But Philip insists that in that particular case, his orders should be obeyed. To assert her importance, she throws her trump card and says that if she is pressed to that extent, she would serve 1 month's notice immediately. At this bogus threat, Philip takes out his checkbook, writes a check for her that Emily gives her notice to solve her problem. Hence, she can leave the service immediately and take the check. At this, Mrs. Higgins is stunned, as she did not really meant to convert his threat into reality. Mrs. Higgins tells that she had not asked for wages to relinquish the service. She only meant that she should be asked in a decent, polite manner. Thus she reconciles herself with the situation. Mrs. Higgins is very aggressive in the beginning. She is quite sure that nobody can disturb her out of her routine duty till such directions come from Mr. James or Uncle James. She talks very impudently to Aunt Emily when she furiously asks if she had sent for her, but when Philip compels her to act upon his order or leave the service, she changes her mind and yields to the forceful, decisive manner of Philip. The last character we have is Mary. Mary is a parlor maid in the house. When Philip rings the bell at 10 o'clock, she comes to attend him and tells that breakfast has been cleared away. Now she will inform Mrs. Higgins, but as it is against housemaster's rule, housemaster, Uncle James, okay, she cannot predict what will be her reaction. Mr. Philip says she should not bother for her negative reply, as he has become habitual of such situations in the army. Mary seems to be a little sympathetic to Mrs. Higgins. She tries to make it clear to Philip that the same old routine and rules are prevalent in the house as they were 4 years before when he went to the war. But he does not listen to her arguments, as then he was a mere boy and he did many silly things. However, she goes to convey the order and soon returns with message for Aunt Emily that Mrs. Higgins wants to speak to her. She finds Philip already there. Aunt Emily gets up to listen to Mrs. Higgins, but is stopped by Philip, who tells her that she has been called by him to prepare breakfast for him. Meanwhile, he strictly orders Mary to go and call Mrs. Higgins to his presence. She is stunned by his order, hesitates for a while, and then she clings to Aunt Emily for support. As she feels like fainting, soon she leaves the room to convey the message. So these are the characters who will be in this play. So I have already introduced the character to you. Now let us discuss the themes of this play. The first theme that we will be discussing is war. Okay, the theme of war in The Boy Comes Home. It is the most important theme of the play. Okay, and it it portrays the sanity, the war, the sanity that is introduced in human society. The butchering of humankind is the other name of war. War is equivalent to butchering of humankind. The playwright has artistically presented the horror of war on the social front. He wishes to make us aware that war is the antidote of social life and established norms of a nation. A timid boy, Philip, had just returned from war, and all he knows today is the fact that human life has no value. He understands that we use force to put down force is the rule of today. Therefore, he may even use force to gain his ends. Next, we have guidance and instructions. That is a generation gap, isn't it? And I think you have already understood, and sometimes we feel that there is a generation gap between you and the elders, you and your parents, you and your teachers, and you feel like they don't understand you. So this is another important theme that we are going to discuss here. Invariably, all parents and elders believe that owing to their vast experience of life, they are to impart instructions and guidance to the youth without any regard of their interest or liking. They believe that youth may go outward following its wild passions and may end up as a waste and spoil. The fear of harm to their young ones forces the parents to crave their road or path cautiously. The playwright deems it the right of the parents to decide on the part of the youth, but he also considers it necessary for the elders to listen to the heart and feelings of the young ones and decide the best accordingly. Okay, and the next and the last theme is appearance and reality. This is interesting to note that appearances are often deceptive. It is merely an appearance that Mrs. Higgins would resign if she is ordered against the settled timetable. She is a stolid and tall woman of angry looks, but Philip manages her quite well. She proves to be a weak personality when exposed. Similarly, Uncle James seems a severe and harsh person, but the impact of just one dream has revealed what he actually is deep inside. So this is all for this video. Here I have just introduced the topic. I have given you a very brief explanation on the characters and the themes. This is the first part of this play, and there will be another video for the continuation where I will be explaining and we will be discussing on the text of the play. Okay, so don't forget to watch the next video also, so that you have the complete knowledge of this play. Thank you.